What I want to do is make a yearbook page. We're going to make one kind of from scratch, but we're going to follow a template that's there. But what I really want to do is show you how to make different elements in a yearbook page. And I think what I'm going to do is there's going to be a series of videos, each one of them showing you how to do a different thing. So for this one, we want to start with a blank page. So I'm going to go File in Photopea and do New. I'm going to change it to inches. And my width is going to be 17. My height is going to be 11. This is our standard size for yearbook pages. DPI we're going to set to 200. So we talked about this in an earlier video, but 200 is kind of the base of resolution, but not being too high. So set it to 200, 17 by 11, click Create. And this is going to be our blank yearbook page. Now, I'm not suggesting you copy other people's, but I'm going to use this one because it is an example. And I want to show you how we would make stuff specifically. And I'm going to use this one as my kind of follow along example. So I held Shift and drug it out after I dropped it on the screen. I'm going to click my check mark, and then I am going to lock this so that I can't move it. What I want to show you today is how to create some shape elements. So we're going to create this behind the scenes box. We're going to create this box right here with the acting up and the one of a kind, and then maybe a couple more things also. So let's make this behind the scenes box first. So I'm going to make a new layer. Select my rectangular select tool, and I'm going to draw this box. So I'm going to line up my tool, click and drag, and it's going to make a selection. I want to pick a color, so I'm going to go to swatches, and I'm just going to pick this blue. Remember, you can double click this over here, and you can adjust this blue, so I can adjust the shade and the hue of the blue. We can actually change the color. So if I wanted it red instead, we could make it kind of a reddy orange, whatever. I don't want to change it. Blue's fine. So I have this selection and is on my new layer, and I want to fill it with this blue color. To do that, I hold down Alt and hit Backspace. That fills it, but notice my selection is still there. I don't want it to still be there, so Control D gets rid of the selection, and now I've made a shape. I want to name this. So this was the heads up. Call it the heads up blue bar. And it may not seem like it's that important to name things, but if I'm sharing this with other people, well, that was actually not heads up. That was behind the scenes. Darn it. Okay, we can fix it. Double click it. Cooperate. Behind the scenes blue bar. Okay, so again, if you're making this as a template and you're going to share this with other people, I want to be able to recognize whatever it is, hopefully rather quickly. Now I can make pretty much any type of rectangular shape I want to. I can also make squares. So when I drag this out, it's just making a rectangle. But if you hold Shift when you drag out, it locks the aspect ratio and makes it a square. I can let go and make it something else. Click Shift and move again. It turns it back into a square. Okay, I want to make this acting up box. So I'm going to make a new layer to put the box on. It would probably be a good idea for me to zoom in to make it a little more accurate. So I'm going to put my mouse here, drag another selection. Now this one is white, so I don't want to fill it with blue. But you notice that my background color is white. So if I hit Alt and Backspace, it fills in with whatever the foreground color is. That's this top one. If I hold Control Backspace, it fills in with the bottom one. So I'm going to hold Control Backspace, and that's going to fill it in with my bottom color of white. I'm going to press Control D to get rid of my selection. And that's all good, except that's now just a white box. In fact, you can't even see it on my white background. Let me turn that off. It doesn't have the little border around it. So to add the border, I'm going to go to Effects, stroke, and then you can see it adds a line. Its color is red. I want it to be this blue, so I'm just going to click on the blue and it's going to switch it. I clicked on the blue in the image. I can then adjust the size. Right now it's 3 pixels. I can make it down to 1. We can blow it up real big. I think 3 pixels look pretty good though, so I can just type in 3. You can move the position. This is the position relative to the box, so it can be inside the outside edge or outside the outside edge. You can change blend mode. You can change opacity. You can actually change it to a gradient if you want it to fade from one color to the other. But for right now, that's good enough. I'm going to click OK, and I have my white box with my little blue border. So I'm going to double click this and rename it. What is it? It was acting up. So acting up white box. Now, I also want to make this box down here, but I don't want to redo this again. So I could easily, like, well, I guess relatively easy. I can make a new layer. And let's see if I can line this up and drag out a box. Do Control Backspace and fill it. And what I can do is right click on this layer that had the style on it. You can see it has a little effect right there. If I right click and choose layer style copy, I can go to this layer, right click on it, choose layer style paste, and it puts the exact same layer style on it, and I've got my box made. Conversely, if I didn't want to do that, what I could do is just copy this acting up white box. So if I have that layer selected and I press Control J, I'll make a copy of it. I'm going to press Control Alt T, and it's going to be my transform tool. And I'm going to bring this down here and kind of line it up. That did not work at all. Let's try that again. All right, Control T. Holding Shift down. Shift should let me drag it straight down, and it doesn't because why not? There we go. Line it up with the bottom. And then I can use these little handles to reshape this box. So make it that tall. I'm going to make it that wide. And then click my little check mark to accept it. And I can make the box that way. So if I had like 5 of these and they were relatively close to the same size, I could just go through and copy and paste with Control J. Okay, so I have these 3 boxes made over here. I need to change the name of this one. It's not acting up anymore. It is one of a kind white box. Now, if I go back and we actually look, I had these circles here, and these would probably be photos, but for right now, I'm going to make them shapes. So I'm going to turn off my acting up white box. I'm going to Control and plus to zoom in again. And I want to make these 2 circles. So I'm going to make a new layer. This time I'm going to select my ellipse tool. And to do that, I just right clicked on the rectangle, choose ellipse. And just like the rectangle, if I drag, it has no like proportion control, but if I hold shift and drag, it locks it into being a circle. So I'm going to make it a circle, hopefully roughly the same size. We're going to fill this with blue also. So I'm going to select my blue color, and it turns this blue. I'm press Alt Backspace and fill it in, Control D to get rid of the selection. And then I'm going to press Control Alt and T. And it looks like I made it a little bit small. So I'm going to hold Shift and drag it up a little bit. All right, that looks pretty close to the right size. So I'm going to click the check mark. And I don't want to recopy this down here. By the way, these are perfect circles. My screen is really stretched. So if it looks kind of weirdly football shaped, it does on my screen too. So I'm going to call this top circle. And what I want to do is I want to copy it. So I want to press Control J, get my move tool, hold down Shift, drag down until I get here. And now I've got my 2 circles. So I'm going to turn my background off, Control 0, and you can see I've made pretty much all the shapes that I need for this layout. The rest of them are photos. Let me turn this background off though, excuse me, and I want to show you some other things you can do. I know this is the rectangle tool. So actually before I do that, before I go making a whole bunch of new layers, I want to do something. I'm going to select this top circle copy. These are my shapes, right? So I'm going to hold Shift and click this bottom one, and it's going to highlight all of them. When it does, I'm going to press Control and G, and that puts them into a folder, Control G for group. And I'm going to rename this Shapes. So these are all of my shapes. I can now turn them all off and on just by turning the little eyeball off. If I need to adjust them individually, I can click the little drop down and do whatever I need to do individually. But for right now, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a new layer. Turn this one off. And any rectangular shape I can make. So if I want a line that runs across this page, then just use your rectangle tool and drag out a line. Alt backspace, Control D to get rid of the selection. And I've got this line. Oh, that's weird. It should not do that. Good job, Photopea. There we go. So I've got this line that I can move around. I can do Control Alt T. And I can rescale it, make it bigger, skinnier, whatever. I could switch colors. So let's check that. Maybe I want it to be yellow. I can click yellow and then do Alt. Whoops, I got to have my selection. I can do Alt backspace and made it yellow instead. Then done Control Alt T and made it a line. And then maybe this goes with my design. But maybe I want it behind the blue box. So I'm going to change the layer order and I put that shape behind there. So you can make lines, any type of boxes, anything like that. Let me get rid of this. Also, I can do something like this. I'm going to make a circle. So I'll get my ellipse tool. I'm going to hold Shift and drag out a perfect circle. I'm going to press Alt backspace, fill it in with yellow, Control D to deselect it. Then I'm going to get my rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a box out like this. And then I'm going to just press delete, and it's going to delete everything from that selection, and then Control D. And now I've got a little half circle. I could also draw out a box like this. Press delete, Control D, and now I've got a little like quarter circle. So you can make all kinds of funky shapes just by cutting pieces or adding pieces also. So I could come in here now and make a rectangle. And then Alt backspace and Control D, and then I've got this, I don't know what you would call that, like half a shield maybe. But I can come in here and make a lot of different shapes just by combining the shapes I have. So really, if you look at most yearbook pages, they're a very simple combination, usually of rectangles and circles. And especially if you're looking at this page, that's all there is, rectangles and circles. We gave a little stroke to the white squares or white rectangles, and we've made all our shapes. Okay, so that's it for right now for making shapes.